Hey everybody, welcome to another stream of InfoWars Press. Y'all will want to go to this channel and subscribe and like. It helps us. And although I'm putting this out to our American in Crimea channel, and it will go in the InfoWars Press playlist there as well, I will be discontinuing doing that in the future. So if you like this content, go over there and subscribe. So a lot of this is the news I wanted to get to yesterday, but the short video I did actually went in a different direction. So here's what I was going to cover yesterday. So this is the news for today. So the first story is Ukraine was looking at blocking Telegram channels because they viewed it as a security risk. But today, the Ukrainian cyber police released a statement saying it is technically and legally difficult to block Telegram, and it wouldn't be possible to explain it to their society, which demands this messenger app. Now, it isn't really that difficult to block Telegram channels. Any good IT person should be able to do it. Russia did it last fall at a critical point in the special military operation, and, 21 political telegrams in France have recently been blocked. They were pro-Russian but French channels. And the French themselves noted in comments on the news about the French government blocking these channels that even during the Cold War, it was always possible by the Pravda news in Paris. But, now you can't do that because forbid you hear the other side of the story. You should only hear what your government's telling you. Now, the big one yesterday was nukes in space. And I want you to remember there's always a little bit of truth in all propaganda. You take a piece of truth and you wrap it in lies. And the US government, it looks like they were using this to justify funding of Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan before the House of Representatives went on vacation. I will put some links in the description for you so you can take a look at this stuff yourself and make up your own mind. So, Congressman Turner, head of the Intelligence Committee, said that he was going to hold a top secret meeting with congressional leaders about a major security threat to the United States. So we're going to take a look at a couple of different things here. One of them is a post by my friend Laurie Spencer, who put this out shortly after this announcement was made by Turner. And it says that, Biden says that Russia is testing a space-based nuclear weapon. Let's take a look at another one here. The Daily Mail. So, serious national security threat. Russia wants to put nuclear weapons in space. Biden is urged to declassify all materials after an ominous warning from top Republican Mike Turner. Well, looks like Mike Turner is going to lose his chairmanship of the committee because it wasn't really that big of a deal. So let's see what Biden had to say about this shortly after all this went down, and it was found that it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Concerned are you about the anti-satellite capability that Russia is developing, and what is your administration planning to do in response?
First of all, there is no nuclear threat to the people of America or anywhere else in the world with what Russia is doing at the moment, number one. Number two, anything that they're doing or they will do relates to satellites in space and damaging those satellites potentially. Number three, there is no evidence that they have made a decision to go forward with doing anything in space either. So what we found out, there was a capacity to launch a system into space that could theoretically do something that was damaging. Hadn't happened yet, and
Theoretically.
my hope.
So that's Biden's statement on this whole deal. What can we say about that? Now, let's take a look at what actually caused this big brouhaha. This is actually what was in the news that caused all of this, and why Turner has a bit of trouble in his life at the moment. So, Russia actually did test a nuclear propulsion system for spacecraft. It is a nuclear electrical propulsion system to launch satellites and rockets into space. It has nothing to do with blowing up anything. But let's take a look at this video, which is Operation Fishbowl, which the United States
fields.
conducted in
In
the
1958,
50s and
the US
60s.
exploded 6 weapons in high-altitude tests, but the results raised more questions than it answered. These tests would stop when the USA, USSR, and Great Britain agreed to a 3-year memorandum on nuclear weapons tests. Internal political pressures within the USSR led to an announcement in August 1961 that they would be lifting the memorandum on their testing. In response, the US conducted Operation Dominic, a series of 31 weapons tests. During this period, a much more ambitious series of tests were conducted in order to try and answer some of the high-altitude questions from 1958. The series of tests were called Operation Fishbowl, and the objectives were to investigate 3 main phenomena: the electromagnetic pulses and its effects, auroras associated with high-altitude nuclear explosions, and blackouts of radio communication.
So I will give you guys the link to this in the description. You can go listen to the whole history of it. But basically, the United States conducted these launches when they exploded these 1.25, 1.5 kiloton nuclear bombs in space. Lights went out in Honolulu, 900 miles away, and knocked out several communication systems on Earth and 3 satellites in space. Now, 5 years after these tests, they were still detecting radioisotopes in space. So, any way you look at it, the United States has had this technology. It's likely Russia has the same technology. But the problem is it isn't necessarily a national security threat to the United States, because if either side blows up a nuclear weapon in space, it's likely it will take out their own satellites as well. You can't just say, hey, radiation, only do an electromagnetic pulse on our enemy's satellites. It will take them all out. So it wouldn't be very useful the way it is right at the moment. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about is Cherios, chemicals in oat and grain-based crops. The Environmental Working Group, I will give you links to these studies, found chlormequat in foods that they tested, a pesticide, and they found it in 4 out of 5 people tested. Now, the big deal is being made out of this, and they say they found it in 4 out of 5 people tested because the chemicals linked to reproductive and development problems in animal studies, that the findings say it is a risk to children. This is what the news is telling everybody. Now, what the study actually says is potential risk for small children. And it does cause stunting of growth of plants, and it causes them, when they grow, to strengthen their stalks and produce more robust plants that are resistant to disease and pests. Now, again, the Western news is saying that Cheerios and Quaker Oats are causing reproductive problems in humans. It's propaganda. The study only tested 96 people between 2017 and 2023. So it's a large period of time and a very small amount of people. So statistically, it's not really relevant. And again, what the study actually says is exposure could be on the rise. Now, since 2018, the EPA has permitted its use on oats and other imported foods in residual amounts. And these amounts have been increased under Donald Trump. And there's an application from the manufacturer of this chemical to allow them to use it on American grown grain crops, but it has not been approved. So the other thing is they tested organic foods in 22 and 23, and they showed little to no detection of the chemical. Well, in fact, it was 1 of 7 organic samples that they tested. So not a very significant test again. You only test 7 foods and 1 of them doesn't have it. It doesn't mean they all have it. Now, I do get comments from Russians quite often that Russia does not use propaganda. However, I'm going to pick on the Russian media here because RT posted a big article that said 80% of Americans test positive for chemical linked to infertility, and that the study found chemicals in 92% of the food tested. Well, they only tested 14 foods, and chlormequat was found in all but 1 non-organic food that they tested. So 1 out of 14, yeah, it's a correct percentage by RT, but, the headlines make it sound bigger than it is. And they found levels higher than they, being the group that did the studies, higher than they think is safe in children. So, it's their opinion. Now, the amount was equal to eating 1 blade of grass off of an American football field. So, and it also says it might cause problems based on a serving size for given to a child of the weight of an average child. So the results, if you follow what they're saying, eat Kellogg's Special K fruit and yogurt cereal, because that's the one sample they tested that didn't show any of it in it. Does that mean anything? They only tested 1 sample of it. So they opened 1 box, tested a little bit out of that 1 box. Doesn't mean there isn't any. So let's take a look at this drug a little bit. 97% of it is excreted intact by mammals within 24 hours. Within 24 hours of ingesting it. It's a mouthful. But it is also found in eggs, milk, vegetables, and meat. And the other 3% becomes a metabolite. So it goes into your system, but it isn't a dangerous thing in your system. That's what the facts show. So still, it's not great for your body, but hey, I remember back in the 70s where the big scare was, bacon. If you eat bacon, it will cause cancer. Well, I've been eating bacon my whole life, as many Americans have, and guess what? I'm still alive. So I'm not going to, put too much into this either. So that's our news for February 17th, 2024 on the propaganda front. I'll give you the links. Go look at the stuff yourself. All of this is my analysis of it, but make your own opinions, okay? Research other places as well and see what they have to say, and use some critical thinking skills, and you decide what the truth is.